Hello there, welcome to my review of the director's cut of 1986's Aliens, the sequel to 1979's Alien, which takes the horror premise of the original and expands it into an action film, as we discover that Ripley has been in stasis for 57 years.
How long was I out there?
57 years.
What?
She's rescued and discovers that LV-426, where her crew discovered the alien life form that wiped them out, has since been colonized, with no sightings of the aliens she left behind.
There have been people there for over 20 years, and they never complained about any hostile organism.
How many are there?
I don't know, 60, maybe 70 families.
When contact is lost with the colony, Ripley agrees to accompany a troop of colonial marines and fellow Weyland-Yutani employee Carter Burke on the condition they exterminate the creatures that traumatized her. They are also accompanied by an android, Bishop, who Ripley is distrustful of after her previous encounter with the android Ash.
You never said anything about an android being on board. Why not?
On the surface of LV-426, they find no colonists, except for a young girl named Newt. But they do find the colonists have been experimenting on facehuggers. The Marines are attacked, and only 4 make it out alive, thanks to Ripley, who also discovers it was Burke that ordered the colonists to investigate the original spaceship wreckage that contained the alien eggs, and he is planning to bring an alien back to Earth to continue experimenting on them. It's now a fight for survival against the horde of xenomorphs as they attempt to get back to their ship, while Ripley decides who's more dangerous, them or us.
You know, Burke, I don't know which species is worse. You don't see them fucking each other over for a goddamn percentage.
There's an unwritten rule in Hollywood that says the sequel will always be inferior to the original. And, for the most part, that's absolutely true. There are a few exceptions, but not many. One such exception is any sequel made by James Cameron, which is why it's such a shame we never got Titanic 2, The Iceberg Takes Manhattan. What Cameron does so well is he makes sequels that respect the narrative of the original film and expand on it in an organic way, while exploring new themes. This film follows immediately on from the original, which, for all its quality, plot-wise was Jaws in space. And rather than repeat that formula, as they did in Jaws 2, Aliens ups the ante by not only having more aliens, but fleshing out Ripley's backstory and giving her a character arc independent of the first film. One of the things I really like is how creative as a filmmaker Cameron is, with things like set design and props. These are the things that don't necessarily stand out when you watch the film, but add to the immersive experience. For example, when the Marines are waking from stasis, Cameron is able to increase the scale of the scene by adding a mirror to make it look like there are more pods than there actually are, or the way he mounts the futuristic guns on Steadicam arms. In the real world, these are for mounting cameras on to make smooth handheld shots, but here Cameron repurposes something most people won't be familiar with to add to the futuristic look of the film, and it works quite easily. Not all of the effects quite hold up, some of the back projection is noticeable on modern screens, but generally everything still looks pretty good. The main plot is actually surprisingly basic, and still structured like a horror movie, even though this is often thought of as a pure action film. Aliens attack, picking off humans until only a small band of survivors are left to be taken out one by one. But it is the various subplots that really enhance the action and horror elements of the main plot. We find Ripley traumatised by the events of the first film, only to be further devastated by the news her daughter has grown up and died of old age in the time Ripley has been away.
Amanda Ripley McLaren, age 66. And that was at the time of her death.
Leaving her with no family, and also certainly helping with her decision to return to LV-426. It is not just the cathartic prospect of wiping out these aliens in the same way they wiped out her crew, but also a kind of death wish, realizing everything she knew is gone and she has nothing left for her on Earth. It's only when they find the child Newt and Ripley is able to rediscover the joys of motherhood that she finds a purpose to go on. It's not the healthiest form of therapy to take on, but this is contrasted with the alien queen, who is also acting maternally from her perspective. While LV-426 is not the home planet of the xenomorphs, they were there before humans, and act as such, protecting their territory. It's similar to Avatar in that respect, although the Na'vi are obviously more sympathetic. Something else it has in common is the scathing criticism of the worst excesses of capitalism, as once again the company continues to exploit people for profit. Although in this film the sentiment is embodied by Carter Burke, as he plans to use Ripley and Newt as incubators for the aliens in order to get them through Earth's quarantine rules. He sees the aliens' value as weapons of war, and is foolish enough to think he can control the destruction they could unleash. The value of the xenomorphs as weapons of mass destruction far outweighs the value of the lives of the colonists and the Marines as, people. Considering the film has the Marines in prominent heroic roles, and it's the civilian who is the villain, it might seem surprising that this is also anti-war. But I think the point is that the Marines are doing a job and are exploited by the machines of war just as much as the civilian colonists have been. Most of the Marines are killed off pretty quickly and don't get the heroic death promised by military jingoism. This also happens to be an excellent storytelling device, where you start with an apparently superior fighting force, then have them easily eliminated to not only raise the stakes for the survivors, but also make the threat seem credible. It's a relatively simple storytelling trick, and yet so many films fail to set up their threat in such a credible way. Another brilliantly simple trick Cameron employs is in characterization of the Marines. This is achieved by giving the Marines slightly different uniforms, weapons or props, and allowing them to personalize their kit. Again, it's remarkable how few films feature a group of potentially generic military characters and then don't take the time to do simple things to distinguish them from each other, making them instantly forgettable or worse, confusing. It's this fusion of Cameron's creativity, the iconic alien characters, the intense character-driven action scenes, and a deep emotional core where Ripley is not treated as a side character and whose character arc is dependent on her experiences as a woman. While Hicks does start to act as a surrogate father in small ways, he remains a soldier first and foremost, and everything else is just hinted towards, which was a very brave choice, as Cameron could have easily introduced a big romantic storyline between Hicks and Ripley, leading to this found family, yet that is kept at a distance to strengthen the Newt Ripley story arc. Cameron's ability to blend all these themes, characters and plot threads together while delivering a message about the capitalist war machine and a touching story about a woman who loses then finds a daughter is pretty masterful. Thank you. Goodbye.